It's doing numbers.
That's what you did today.
Sorry.
So this is how you can make it up to me.
2. And my battery's about to die. You better hurry up.
Okay, ready?
Yes, go.
Hi, I'm Alina.
Hey, I'm George.
And this is episode 28 of the Unplugged podcast.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes, we hope you like it.
Yeah, so as I was trying to say, there's been another attack on women and women's rights and women's feelings and whatnot.
Who's been attacking these women now?
It came from another woman, but then it came from an official body. So obviously, Caster Semenya now has been scrutinized, put under the gun, simply for her just being herself and being a great athlete, winning like 28 races or 29 races. 29?
Come on.
29 races for
back to back.
And in what heat?
800 meters and 1500 meters.
There we go. So, obviously, they're saying now that because another former athlete that she races against obviously got upset because she kept losing. She didn't cut it. She was down there. She couldn't come up. But yeah.
You gonna state names or?
Do you know what? White lady. Sorry, Izzy, what did you say again on the mic?
The white lady.
I mean, I actually don't know her name.
Okay.
But if you do, I would be careful.
Wasn't he a British athlete?
Yeah, so I've seen it all over Twitter, Lindsay Sharp.
Yeah, because I watched the interview.
She's a really good athlete.
Yeah,
no. Lindsay Sharp wasn't the one complaining.
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking about the athlete that was actually complaining.
Sorry.
About Caster Semenya, who that she was actually competed against. She came off in one of the races they had.
Bravo, it was Lindsay Sharp.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
She's a really good British athlete.
Probably wrong.
The interview that I saw, it came across as ungracious. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
she lost and she tried to blame it on the fact.
She lost and tried to say that Caster Semenya was a man.
Yeah.
And there's been
sometimes you gotta hold that.
Throughout her career, there's been said, "Oh no, she's too good. She has to be a man. She can't be. She has to be hermaphrodite." They were trying to throw things at Caster Semenya. She still, was like, nope, kept rolling with the punches, kept winning, kept proving people wrong, whatnot.
Boom.
And then now, obviously, we're at the stage now where you can do hyper-complex texting and whatnot. So they tested everything. She doesn't take drugs, she doesn't take performance-enhancing drugs. But like some other women and some other great athletes, she had higher testosterone levels than others. And now, which is by the International Athletics Association, too high. So what they're trying to say now is that that's giving her the advantage to then beat every single woman. So that now she has to take drugs to bring it down to the normal level, to the quote unquote normal level, which is not her normal level, obviously.
Sure.
So in order to make it fair. However, the outrages and what I'm annoyed about is that they just literally come and jump on her and wake up her out of her bed to tell her this and cause her a problem. The English wasn't great now. Whereas other athletes like Michael Phelps and a few other athletes, they have their own biological advances and nobody has said anything to them. So it's really unfair and unjust simply because Lindsay Sharp, thank you for correcting me, had a hissy fit and started crying.
There's been
obviously she was the front of it, but there's been a bunch of athletes who have then started to complain that are just not good enough. They just didn't cut it. And so she's now in question under scrutiny for just being great.
So her testosterone level are above the threshold amount for what they accept for being a female athlete.
Yeah.
And so they're basically saying that for her to continue to compete for the next 8 months, she's got to take testosterone suppressing drugs.
Yeah.
So that her testosterone levels fall below the threshold amount.
Yeah.
So I actually did some research into that, and the science on it isn't very conclusive at all. Obviously. But again, it's mostly, the science in it is mostly with regards to people who are changing genders.
Okay.
So people basically who were born male and then transition to being female later in life. But people who have naturally high testosterone levels, there's not really any testing on it. But what one journalist was saying, who herself was male, transitioning to female, he was a long distance runner, that testosterone does basically two things. It increases your bone density and muscle mass. Which basically means you can carry more weight because your bones are basically stronger, and you can throw weight further because you're stronger. So that, in terms of short distance events, as in sprinting or throwing, jumping, those kind of sports, type things where there aren't necessarily skill based, but you're just, for example, powerlifting, where you're just simply lifting the most amount of weight possible, then you're looking at a real significant to be there's a real danger of there being a competitive advantage. However, with like longer distances, but again, there's no testing, so you don't know where the cutoff point is in terms of what's too long or what's too short.
Yeah.
And obviously, because she's doing what you said between
800
and 1500.
Yeah.
So longer.
I ran 1500, and that's not a short distance.
It's middle distance.
Especially if you're sprint, like you're racing, that's a lesser blow. So again, the IAAF don't consider that at all. It literally just says if you're above the threshold amount, regardless of what sport you're in, you're too high to be classed a female.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Why don't they let her run with the men then?
That's another point they're making though, is because
I know she's female, but if she can't even run with men,
all the people, right, that have high testosterone or transition from male to
still
female,
not high enough.
their competitive times aren't anywhere close to what the men are doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if they were to say, compete with the men, they will get smoked.
And their levels of testosterone aren't as high as males either. It shows you when I looked at and researched something on the spectrum, it's not even as high as men is.
Because I began to think about, okay, so cool, powerlifting makes sense, but what about football then? Football's it's as much skill based as it is physically. And obviously at the elite level, physically it's fucking crazy what they ask you to do, but skill wise, if you can ping a ball flawlessly, you always stand a chance.
That's hard, you know. Pinging the ball is hard.
Yeah, but that's a skill. That's not physically. That's a skill. You can train. You can be able to ping it consistently, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards, and get it on point every time. Like, so, I mean, look at Pirlo. Pirlo doesn't run around. He just stands there and pings the ball, and he's one of the greatest players that ever played the game. So it's like, I think I wouldn't be against playing against women. I wouldn't. If she's good enough, she's good enough. So,
but I think with football, because it's a team sport, it's different to it being athletics.
Why is that?
Where you're running by yourself, you're not competing with a team.
Yeah.
You're your own individual.
You're not letting anyone else.
Apart from in the relay.
That's of course, that's relay. But I think for the female testosterone level, it's between 0.5 to 2.4. That is acceptable by the athletics board. 0.5 to 2.4 nanomoles per blood, and
shout out to my A-level chemistry teacher.
Don't know. And obviously Caster Semenya, she's an amazing athlete, but hers is just
most parts per million.
So beyond that threshold. So do you know what? It's really harsh in how they're treating her.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say though, is because when you actually when you break it down, it's like a lot of the sports that we do, right, are far more skill based than they are actually physically.
And power,
you can accommodate. For example, for basketball, if you're 7 foot, you're gonna have a huge advantage over somebody who is 4'6". That's just part and parcel of the game.
Yeah, but when you're born with some advantages, like when you're being 7'5", that's cool. But if you're shorter, you are, what's the word?
More agile.
More agile. Thank you.
So you can move
better
fast. But the thing is though, but that's not like if you're playing football, because look where the goal is. The hoop is closer to the person who's 7 foot, so.
But the point I'm trying to make is that we all have, in all sports, people always have natural advantages, right?
Sure.
And what they've basically done is they've attributed this arbitrary amount as being the cutoff point, regardless of what sport they're in, without looking at any studies, because there aren't really any to tell you how excess testosterone in women give you or don't give you a competitive advantage in X sport. Like, I understand if you're talking about shot put versus a marathon runner. Like, if you have a higher bone density and a greater muscle mass, you have a disadvantage in a marathon because you've got to carry that weight a further distance. Versus if I have to throw a heavy ball further, that's going to give me the advantage. So it's like they haven't really thought it through at all. Is what I'm basically trying to say is they haven't.
Yeah, because this is the first of its case, so it's such a delicate way in which they handle it. It sets a precedent for whatever comes next.
Yeah, there's one Indian
what's her name?
I forgot her name.
From this country?
No, she's from India. But who basically had a similar.
I'm thinking of Fatima Whitbread.
Yeah, I'm thinking of her too though. She was a British athlete.
Yeah,
and she
amazing
actually.
athlete.
Do you know what?
Shout out Fatima.
Fatima's great, but she looked and was very filled, very done out.
Butch.
Like, I don't want to say, I don't say it, but yeah. she looked more like, fair enough, she looked more like a man than Caster Semenya does. Like, if you can do a comparison. Even, like, muscle, pardon?
Beard game was strong.
No. So, I mean, yesterday, I was actually talking about this something yesterday, like, look, she's got stubble. I was like, come on now, let's not be like that. But if you look at how chiseled she was and how, and her body mass and body type, she was even more defined than Caster Semenya.
Yeah.
Like, as in looking like a man. But nothing happened to her, and obviously that was at a different time.
No, the one I'm talking about, she had to sue the board to be allowed to compete.
Yeah. And why is that?
Because she transitioned from male to female, and I wanted to compete. I think so, or she had high testosterone or something similar.
Okay.
I just don't understand, like, why it's such a problem for a woman to have higher levels of testosterone than what is.
Because what they're saying is it gives such a competitive advantage that it's unfair on everyone else. Yeah. Then it's like they're basically saying just as hard. They're basically saying it's as if a male being on steroids, essentially.
A female.
No, if we're drawing the equivalent to males, it's like a male being on steroids.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. But it's like she's being punished.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
She's being punished for something that she can't help.
She can't control, basically. Yeah.
And they're being too lazy to investigate it fully.
And the people that are deciding that, are they men or women?
Probably men. It's both.
Is it both?
It's both. It's a
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a.
Because then obviously that also, but I think she can't help it.
Yeah, and they make it seem as though she just turns up and she runs. She trains so hard. Yeah. So hard.
And also it's that thing of like, what you were just saying, obviously it's different. Like, I mean, you do get some women who are a bit more on the masculine side, but I think it's also important to like not, if she's an athlete, she's an athlete. Period. Yeah. End of comment. Yeah. Doesn't matter if she looks more like a man or woman. She's an athlete. Do you see what I mean? And you get that a lot. Even what we were talking about earlier with that whole boisterous and men being men. Do you know what I mean? So like how I was saying earlier, like I like my men to be men, and then Kofi's like, what does that mean? And I was like, okay, that's also.
What does that mean?
That's exactly. But then that's.
Can we have the conversation next, please?
No, we will.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So although I'm saying that, I'm also guilty of being like men need to be men. Yeah. Whereas so I'm kind of. Chopping down trees and shit. Yeah.
Lumberjack. Fixing cars.
Yeah, exactly.
My nails gone. Can you sort out things, Ep?
I said Dev.
Dev, why?
That's
sorry, Jamal.
No, but I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it's so bad. Like, if someone is an athlete, they are an athlete. Yeah, if someone is.
What you're saying is stereotypes. What the issue with her? It's scientifically proven that the chemicals in her body, the testosterone, is giving her a competitive advantage. So it's not just about people looking at her thinking, "Oh, she looks muscular."
But they have said that before.
They have, but for years, of course.
But now, scientifically,
she's been scrutinized. She's been bullied. She's been put on newspapers for so many negative things. It's awful based on how she looks, and I think that's terrible. But then at the same time, we're still saying that she has that competitive advantage, which she didn't choose. Yeah. So why should she be ridiculed to that extent for something she didn't choose?
Do, yeah. Yeah. But what I mean is I get all of that, the fact that it's, she's been tested and she has higher levels of testosterone. But what I mean is, what people need to stop doing, and we all need to stop doing it, is identifying people by like what they look like or what we expect them to look like. Sure. Do you see what I mean? Absolutely. So it's fine being like, oh, she does have higher levels of testosterone and blah blah blah, but she is a woman at the end of the day, even if she looks a bit more masculine or a bit more then it doesn't matter. She's a woman and she's an athlete. That's where it needs to that's where it needs to end.
I think it's true.
No, I know, but it's a shame.
I think to your point though, I think if there was credible evidence, as in like conclusively that having X amount in this sport gave you a significant like advantage, then I'd be like, alright, cool, that's just not fair. But is she not the evidence? But that's the thing, we don't know. We know that she's good, right? And we know that we have credible. Yeah, and we know that this is like her testosterone levels are this, but there is no evidence to show the two are linked. That's what I'm trying to say. There, you can infer it. But inference isn't enough in this situation. Yeah. It's not enough. You're right.
Just leave her alone.
Yeah. Until someone decides to actually do some actual research and stop fucking around.
So, yeah.
But stereotypes.
Love it.
Conditioning.
Some flavour. Some
And
salts.
then we'll delve into what you want to talk about as well.
Some more light-hearted content.
I know.
Yeah, some heavy stuff.
I like how we started off busting bad jokes.
Yeah. And then it